Hey, welcome back to E39 Source. This is Ryan with the 2000 M5. Obviously, this isn't mine. This is my dad's 2006 E60 M5. It's been in many videos. We got another one here today. Today we are doing camshaft position sensors, CPS. They're original on this car. They have not been replaced. We've just been doing a bunch of kind of generic preventative maintenance to this car over the past several months. It just got a new clutch in the SMG. I was hoping to actually do a manual swap on this car. That'll be coming later, hopefully, not at the moment though. So the cam sensors, I've never done them on an S85. This is the S85 5-liter V10 used in the 2006 through 2010 M5 and similar model year M6 coupe and convertible. So it will be the same process on the M6 and the M5 between these years, the E60, E61, E63, and E64 chassis BMWs. The cam sensors themselves, there's four, one per camshaft. There's an intake and an exhaust camshaft in each cylinder head, so a total of four. And they are located under these black metal or plastic metal, can't really tell, covers. And these come off with 10mm bolts, which of course the air boxes are probably going to be in the way, so we'll get to remove those for the billionth time. But let's talk about the parts real quick before we get too far. So I want to thank FCP Euro for making this video and several before possible. If you didn't know, anything you buy from fcpeuro.com, the link is in the description below, anything you buy from them comes with a lifetime warranty. So even these consumable parts, these are parts that you will probably go through once every several years, maybe every 100,000 miles, but the warranty applies to oil filters, wiper blades, anything you buy from FCP Euro. It breaks, it wears out, the service life, useful service life is over. Whatever happens to it, you buy another one, you send the original one back, and you get the refund for what you paid for the first one. It's really an unbelievable thing that nobody else is doing right now. So keep that in mind for FCP Euro. But anyways, the part numbers here for the cams are the little number right there, 13627834490, and all four of them are the same. So just order four of those. So the easiest part of this job is probably going to be the 10mm that lives right in there. I just put it on an impact gun and just buzzed it right out. Did the same on the other side. Then the other two 10mm, there's one right there at the end of my finger and mirroring bank 2 over here on bank 1. You just move these hoses out of the way, and then you've got the other one hiding down there. These bolts, which kind of have a sleeve and a washer on them, and they're all the same. They look like that. We do need to release this positive battery cable, actually, which bolts to the engine right here. That is clipped onto this little lid. So we move that out of the way, and then we can just lift this right up and out of the way. It's very warm. This is plastic. I'm just going to stick it down there in the service cart. And now we are greeted by a massive electrical connection and a couple of grounds. So let me play around here and see what we need to do next. So my sources for this job were quite poor. And we're going to be doing a little bit more work than I initially thought here, but that's okay. That's how it works. We are going to need to remove at least the upper portion of these air boxes. Taking off the black covers just gives me these big electrical connections, which I do not even think we need to remove. We get this board here, whatever that is, that's held in with two Allen bolts. I don't think we need to remove those either. We do need to remove the valve cover beauty cover here that covers the coils and the spark plugs and the cam sensors. So those are the cam sensors right there with the little yellow parts on them. Inlet and exhaust. Inlet on the left, exhaust on the right, closer to the exhaust valves. So we're going to need to remove these. They're not held in with any hardware, they just pry right up. But as you can see, I'm totally captive and can't reach the screws that hold the cam sensors in. And we need to remove this to be able to gain access. And to remove the beauty cover, we have to remove the box. So the lines are going to clip up and out of the way. There's a little tab here next to the washer filler neck right there. You just push that one way or the other, and this will detach. The reservoir will detach from the box. Then we have a series of, just like the E39, kind of spring-loaded clips here along the perimeter of the box, and they just pry out like that with a flathead screwdriver. I think there's probably about 5. I'm sure there's one in the back too. Same deal over here. I don't think we're going to need to touch this electrical connector or the two Allens that hold it in, as I said. We will need to remove these hose clamps. You can use a 6mm socket or a flathead screwdriver. We're just going to do this one up here. On this side, same deal with the 5 tabs, and then we have this vent line here, whatever that goes through, and you just pinch it at 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock Easier said than done with one hand, and it detaches. So we're going to get the boxes out of here. The mass airflow sensors will also need to be unplugged. There's 2 tabs on the side. You press them together and pull outwards. So we'll get the boxes out of there, then remove the covers, and then change the sensors. Oh guys, it's always more work than you think. Before I get too far ahead, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, and I haven't done it over here yet all the way. The upper boxes come out just as I said before. It's quite simple. Then you have excellent access to your air filters. Check, inspect, replace as necessary, clean out the boxes of any debris, just normal work you do when you're this far. Then I was able to reach back in here right on this valve or whatever that piece is. There's a hose that goes into that, and it's just like this one that we removed from the airbox lid. It's got 2 parts that you squeeze and wiggle it off, and it kind of just gives you more room. You don't have to do that, but I did. And then it kind of fits down there by the headlight well and out of the way. At that point, I went ahead to remove the lower box as well. Why do that? Because I couldn't get that black spark plug and coil pack cover off with the lower airbox on the way. So there's 2 fasteners that hold the lower airbox on. Every time I do this, I seem to make the same mistake. This time, I didn't. There's a Torx 20, 25, 30, whatever, right here. Don't touch it. There's no need to. There's 2 10mm nuts, one on this stud and one on that stud. Simply remove the 2 10s and then wiggle the box out. Do be careful with the metal clips on the side of the box that we release to get the box lid off. Those things can become loose, they can fall down in the engine, then it's a problem. If they're loose, just take them off, you can put them back on later. It's not broken, that's just how they work. So, in recap right now, we've got both upper boxes, the 1 air filter, the spark plug and coil pack cover, and the lower box out on bank 1, passenger side for a US car. Now, finally, after all of this disassembly, we have beautiful access to both cam position sensors. So we're going to remove the electrical connectors, remove the 5mm, I'm guessing, I'll report back in a bit, Allen bolts that hold them in, pull them out, push the new ones in, tighten them down, and plug them in. And then we can put it all back together again. On cylinder bank 2, the driver's side on a US car, I'm going to take the clean air filter out of the way. Those things are pretty new, so they're in nice shape. Then we're going to do the same thing. We've got the 10mm nut here, and this one has a Torx. So a 10mm in the back, and a Torx looks to be a 25, 27, or 30 right here. We don't need to touch this Torx, just the outer one here. Then we'll lift the box out of the way, being careful of the metal clips so we don't drop them. Then we'll have access to lift this whole cover out of the way. And as you can see with those clips, it just fell, but it caught itself. So I can just lift it out like this. I'll just put it in the box and get it later. Guys, I don't even know why I'm surprised anymore. This is the E60. This is just how this car goes, especially the S85 car. So we have to remove the coolant expansion tank. Well, why do we have to do that? Well, because we got to remove that cover that goes over the spark plugs and the coils. And that one's all dirty. I'll clean that up before I put it back. It's got coolant on it for some reason, even though this doesn't leak. So the expansion tank is held in with 2 10mm bolts. There's one here on this bracket, and then there's another one back here under this little wire for the EDC electronic dampening thing for the strut. So remove both of those, then you can wriggle this thing out of the way, and then finally you can pry that cover off, giving us access to the cam sensors on this side. So the first half an hour is all disassembly. Now to the 5 minutes of actual meat and potatoes. And the screw over here, the Torx, is indeed a T30. So they are 5mm Allen bolts that hold the cam sensors in there. Once you remove the bolts, they pry out pretty easily. There's an O-ring on the end of it, and there's definitely oil on it. As expected, it's feeling the lobes on the cam sensor there. So we're going to disconnect the electrical connector now, which looks like it has this little tab. Very brittle. Wow, that completely just disintegrated. So I am going to have to get a screwdriver or a pick tool to lift the tab, disconnect the sensor, plug the new one in, probably wipe out the bore that it's been in with a shop towel so it doesn't leak, and reinstall it. There's just a look at the old and the new sensor. Obviously the O-ring on the old sensor has gotten pushed. They are the same exact size and dimensions. We'll get a better look over here on bank 1 in some more light. For some reason, one of the 4 sensors was black, the other 4 are gray. They're the exact same part number, the exact same dimensions, the same O-ring. I don't know. They changed the die in the plastic for one of them, so we installed them anyways. The sensor there on the left is the exhaust sensor for bank 1, and that's the only one that didn't have the tab break off. Those yellow connectors, they're not really even supposed to be yellow. They are just, well, look at where they are. They are always hot and vibrating. So unfortunately, with the broken tabs on there, that's not ideal. Those connections could vibrate loose. So those connectors need to be replaced anyways, and if we're in here doing spark plugs next or cam sensors again in another 15 years, I will replace those connectors and the sensors again with them. So in the meantime, I've just put a drop of an adhesive liquid glue joining the sensor and the electrical connector, and that will work. That will absolutely work for now. I don't have access to the parts, and I'm not going to leave the car torn apart until I get them to replace the whole connector, so that's a problem for later. At this point, I cleaned out the wells, made sure the O-ring sealed well. I just used, I went in by hand. I didn't want to use an impact gun to put the 5mm Allens back in. Good tight. There's no specific torque spec for this that I know of. It's not important enough to look something up, so don't wail on it. This is your cylinder head that you know that the threads are in, but good and tight. You don't want them leaking. So connectors are back in place. The sensors are in place. We can go ahead and take our beauty covers here, clean them up, get all that coolant off, make them look nice. Again, those just push right into place. In fact, you can see the black stud right there in the middle of the frame. That's what it pops down over, is the head on that. And there's another one there in the back. So we're going to clean them up and then just push those back in place and reassemble everything. Reassembly begins with a spark plug and the coil pack covers. Line them up, push them into place. Bank 2, all the way at the back, has a little clip that a hose goes in. Very self-explanatory. Push the hose back into the clip just as you removed it before. The expansion tank goes on next. 10mm here, another one in the back. I incorrectly before pointed to that hole. That hole is missing a piece of hardware that holds the cowling on. I have it somewhere. I just need to put it in. This is the one just an inch closer to the radiator where that screw is going to go. So that's back in. I've done the same thing over here. I'm going to put the lower air boxes in next. So quite possibly the most annoying part of this job is just fighting with these air boxes. And it's these metal clips on the side that are the problem, because they're supposed to fold back out of the way, but they don't. They come back over here and then they fall down and then they drop down in the belly pan, and this engine is just wedged in here. So have a magnet ready, have a flexible tool ready. I think the best way to do it is to install the lower air box first without any of the clips in there, then install each clip. To install them, they have to go vertical and slide them in there and then pull up and then hinge them out to about 40 degrees or something like that. Then put the upper box on and then go around and do each one, snap it on. The hardest one to snap on is back here under the positive battery cables. Move them out of the way, take your watch off and try to go in, if you have smaller hands, under there and push it, or otherwise use a screwdriver. It's just frustrating, and there's no right and wrong way to do it. It's whatever works for you and your hand size and your tools and skill set. Over here, the same deal. You have a little bit more room. You got to put that hose back on and plug your MAFs back in. Don't forget to double check and make sure everything's tight. I think I said it before, but these go on before the air box is upper or lower. Those are like the first thing you do for reassembly after the covers over there. But probably looking at 2 hours. Which is way more than I expected. I thought this was going to be a 45-minute job. As I said, the video I watched was very misleading. So this is what it takes to do the cam sensors. This car didn't even have codes for cam sensors. There is absolutely no reason I'm doing this outside of just being stupid, and preventative maintenance is kind of nice because now I know they're not going to be a problem for a long time. If you do need to do them, you will have timing issues, loss of power, maybe poor fuel economy. The check engine light's going to be on. I don't know exactly what codes it throws for this. Something with timing. So if your sensors are old, i.e. over 100,000 miles, over 10 years, just do them. They're not that expensive and the job isn't impossible, it just takes a little bit of time. So let's grab a key, fire this thing up, and see if it still runs. Maybe I've made it worse. This car now has a total of 108,640 miles, which is kind of high for these. E60s, people don't drive them because they break all the time. But I guess we've been lucky with this one. So far so good. And there's cold oil, so I'll be nice with it, but so far so good. Alright guys, that'll do it. That is the camshaft position sensor CPS replacement on the E60 M5 S85 V10. If you have any questions, please leave them below or feel free to email me, ryan@e39source.com. Again, thanks to FCP Euro. Check out the links and part numbers and everything in the description of this video, and we'll talk in the next one. Take care.